So please welcome to the Imus Morning Program, Carl Jeffers. Good morning, Mr. Jeffers.
Good morning, Don. Good to be
So
here.
Carl does what everybody does.
Oh, I know.
It's unbelievable. Or you say something to somebody, it's an indication, one, that people only care about themselves, Carl included, and me, of course, me.
That's a given.
That's a given. I say to Carl, I have a kidney stone. Now, Carl's response is not, I'm sorry.
No.
Not, how do you feel?
Nope.
Not, he says, I've had 3. That's his response. He doesn't, not any indication at all that he gives a damn about anything about the fact that maybe I'm passing it as we're talking.
Right.
no,
He doesn't care.
No, he would care.
I'm
about
showing
that.
empathy, Don.
No, you're not showing empathy.
Absolutely.
No, you're not.
Absolutely.
What you're
said.
doing is you're full of it.
Oh, man.
That's number 1. 2,
Too.
I've had 3. Good. I hope you have 3 more. Son of a bitch. Anyway, do you think you're going to come down with the Ebola virus?
Welcome, Carl.
Well, what a transition.
Just answer the question, Carl.
Oh my
Of
God.
course not. Of course
You
not.
don't?
No, I don't think so. And the doctors have claimed clearly that this is not going to reach epidemic stage in the U.S.
And you think they're telling the truth?
I think they have no reason not to.
Okay, the president said that the Ebola virus would not come to America. He was
Okay.
wrong.
That's right.
He didn't even and he shouldn't have said that, should he?
Well, I don't know that he shouldn't have because
But he didn't know.
But he was trying to reassure and calm the American people because the level of fear and potential panic out there is very high.
So
I don't completely fault the president for making that statement.
Okay, so you think it's okay for the president, the administration, to lie to us and the CDC to ally our fears, right?
Well, that's a rhetorical question because as soon as you mention the word president, you could go all the way back to George Washington and you'd have
Right.
to address that with every president. But there are some lies that are beneficial. President Roosevelt lied to the American people about the status of the war because it was important to motivate and to keep the American people united.
Okay.
Woodrow Wilson did the same thing.
So you
Many
think
people
it's
have done that.
okay then that the president hasn't been forthright with us, or the CDC hasn't been forthright with us about the Ebola virus? Let's start there. And the administration continues to lie to us about the effectiveness of our battle against ISIS.
Well,
You think that's
number one,
okay?
first of all, let's
Do you
not
think that's
confuse
okay?
ISIS situation
Oh, not.
with this because in the
But they're
case of
being
ISIS,
they're being untruthful about both
I'm
events.
completely critical of the president about ISIS only because he refuses to acknowledge what every single military analyst
Right.
is saying, that we've got to have ground troops. And if he doesn't do that, he's going to wind up in the same place where we were with Vietnam, with everything else,
Yeah.
and he will be a condemned president for
Do
that.
you agree he's not being truthful with us?
On this issue, but I understand that. However, I don't know the facts suggest that the CDC has not been forthcoming, Don. The CDC, as a matter of fact,
Okay,
has
here's-
been the primary
Let me tell
reason
you
for
how
doing
they
it.
have been.
Okay.
They said, Tom Frieden, head of
Yes.
the CDC,
Yes.
in an initial press conference, tried to tell us that of the various ways that the Ebola virus could be
Transmitted, yes.
But he did not know what he was talking about. But he told us stuff that was not true.
Okay.
So-
Those are two different statements. Number one, Tom Frieden does know what he is talking about.
he doesn't.
His credentials are impeccable, and his career resume is absolutely
He's
superb.
lying to us
But
because why won't they simply say, I don't know? Because they didn't know.
But they know as much as is possible to know
Well, say
and
that then.
convey to the American people.
Don't tell us that it can't be transmitted by through the air if you don't know whether.
Well, wait a minute. To even this morning, all of the medical professionals are still saying that this is not an airborne virus.
That's not true.
Well, am I supposed to take your word for it and eliminate the word of all of these other
You can
doctors?
be on somebody else's show if you don't want to take my word for it.
Well, I mean,
I'm telling you-
if that's how it
No,
works,
I'm
then there's every reason for the president to lie.
I'm telling you what the facts are. I had Dr. Gottlieb in here said,
Yes.
in fact, that it can be transmitted through the air.
Well, then there are conflicting opinions about that, and there's
So
conflicting
then
evidence.
why don't we simply say we don't know?
Because
If we
they
don't
feel
know.
they do know. Your Dr. Gottlieb appears to think that he knows, and these other doctors are countering that with their statements that it is, in fact, not an airborne virus.
So it cannot be transmitted.
This is their opinion. I don't have an I don't have
I know you
an
don't.
opinion on that.
But my point is that
Yes.
they don't either. They just think that. They don't have any proof.
But they
of that.
have more reason to think that than I would have to take either of those positions.
Okay. So, and do you think that Tom Friedman's doing a good job, CDC?
From as an outside observer, as a layman in this area, he appears to be totally dedicated and committed and doing the best job that he can do.
I hope you get 9 kidney stones.
Oh, man.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well,
no,
there'll
Not
be
9?
some left, because you have
None.
one, so
I
you're
have a
dealing with
bunch.
yours right now. So I think you ought to address yours, and I won't worry about it since I don't have any at the moment.
Well, you're going to have some. 'Cause I'm going to read
Listen.
my voodoo doll.
But you know what, Don? I did want to say this on the Ebola crisis. The Texas Presbyterian needs to come under the most severe scrutiny, and I'll tell you why. There's been too much distraction of the real problem I see there lately with their protocol. Even issues of race came up. You know, was he treated differently because Duncan was black versus a person of color and so forth? They're skipping over the biggest problem, and it was the indicator right from the beginning. When the people from Texas Presbyterian went to the microphones and said the problem was, and the reason why he was released, and we had to then go another 2 or 3 days before he came back, was because in our hospital, the information that is taken by the nurses is put into a separate system and is not reviewed by the doctors who also have their information in a separate system. If that's true, this hospital ought to be shut down tomorrow because, Don, you go to the hospital, I go to the hospital, Colin, you go to the hospital. What happens?
We're all going to the hospital?
The nurse comes in. You can do that. You can handle this any way you like, Don. It is your show, as you point out. But and I appreciate the humor. You go into the room, and no, then I don't appreciate the humor. But the nurse takes all of it.
Idiot. I mean, you can't possibly believe.
No, let me finish the statement. The nurse takes absolutely not. Come on, Don.
12 kidney stones.
You yourself have made the point to the opposite for the last 4 years. The nurse takes down vital information, takes blood pressure, all of that, puts it in the information chart, however it is. Then you wait, and then the doctor comes in. What's the first thing he does? Takes the chart, takes the information, and then reviews it, and then says, I see your blood pressure's up a little bit, or I see this, I see that. The only change in that is those hospitals that now have a computer system where the nurse enters that information in the computer, the doctor sees it even before he comes into the room. But there is nowhere in America today where the nurse's information is sent off somewhere in a remote area that the doctor doesn't have access to. And if that's how they're doing it there, that's where we need a congressional inquiry, and we ought to close them down.
Connell has a good question.
Sure.
We have these 4 units, 4 hospitals set up
Yes.
around the country to treat, after 9/11, to treat these infectious diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Why aren't we treating these people there?
Well, I do think they have determined that Nebraska has one of the best.
We know where the 4 are.
Yeah, okay, now Marie and
that's
Atlanta.
not the issue.
Yeah, well,
why aren't they treating these people there?
Well, first of all, this matter has really been most recent in terms of reaching nationwide concern.
How come you don't answer that question?
So here's the problem,
Well,
Don.
why won't you answer that question?
I'm answering this question.
No, you're not.
I'm answering. Are you running for office with me as your opponent? I mean, this is like a politician debate. Let's get to the issue of try to get some information out to the people.
No, you're not. Here's the problem.
Yes.
You won't answer the question.
I'm
You're
answering
like
the
about half
question.
of these people.
Listen, that's like the
All you're
politician who
worried about
answers
is
every
your kidney
question with,
stuff.
I think
man.
that's a good question, but
There goes Carl. 9 kidney stones.
15 kidney stones.